Gridiron Grinder! Hut hut hike!
All right, here we go. Gridiron Grinder time. I'm Ryan. With me, as always, my buddy James. Just a couple of dudes hanging out talking about what's going on in the NFL each week. This is episode 159 of Gridiron Grinder. We're going to kick things off with Name That Stadium. Then we're going to do the news from the past week. After that, we're going to give you our week 3 power rankings and game picks. And last but not least, we'll close things off with question of the week. And so, yeah, man, how's it going tonight, James?
It's going good. How's it going with you?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. As I was telling you, I just got back from Notre Dame prep homecoming football game. Nice to see the Irish. They were up 56 nothing at halftime. I mean, it was pretty impressive, and so uh, a nice way to celebrate homecoming, I'd say.
Yeah, you schedule your easiest or schedule your homecoming around your easiest
Your
game.
powder puff?
So
Yeah, I don't know,
yeah,
man. I mean, their offense looks pretty legit, but you know, the private school stuff, you never know. It's the competition's up, down, everything in between. So,
yeah. Like
uh,
with us when I was in high school, like it was either Ferndale or Hazel Park we played for homecoming because
that was your
we always
powder puff.
yeah, we like it was so bad sometimes like we would you defer in the first half to the second half and then we would choose to kick off because we were beating the shit
Yeah.
out of them so bad like 48 50 57 nothing at halftime.
Oh
So yeah,
yeah.
we'll just give you the ball again.
Start breaking in the younger guys.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, hey, man, why don't you take the ball and run with it? Do some name that stadium action for us.
All right, as you can see, I'm traveling around going to different stadiums that host NFL games. I try to tie it into something. First person that guesses gets it right. You get that extra special shout out. We'll bookmark it, and you can play it for your friends. I didn't see any takers for last week, and I made a dumb mistake last week when I looked at the games because I ignored the Lions game for some reason when I was looking at it, and I thought Houston or Indianapolis at Houston. You had the two top five picks, uh, top five quarterbacks picked in the draft. Hell, top three, two of the top three quarterbacks picked in this last year's draft playing each other, and so I went to Houston last week, but I should have gone to Detroit because I forgot about the fucking Lions game. I just fucking looked right by it.
It's all good, man. You go to Ford Field quite a bit.
Yeah, I generally go every chance I can, but it's just some reason I completely forgot that the Lions were at home.
That's all right. They're at home again this week. So, but it's cool. Yeah. And hey, hopefully we'll get a taker for Name That Stadium. Somebody, it's very easy. You just go to YouTube, you look up Gridiron Grinder. You're probably watching it right now if you're hearing me, and you just go to the comments and you put in any guess you want, and then we'll give you the super special shout out. We'll give you a super special shout out even if you get it wrong. How about that, people? Just
Yeah,
play the game.
just fucking play.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's name that stadium. Let's do our recap of the past week. And James, I didn't spend like a ton of time digging into it this week, and so I'm gonna hit like the highlights at like 50,000 feet. And if you want to get into any of the details, we can. Um, oh, before I go too far, I suppose we got to do our surprise games of the week, right? You reminded me of that last week,
Yeah,
so.
but that was after the news. We did the news, then the
Oh, so
surprise.
we do that after the news. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. We'll do that after the news. So, yeah, the big news from this past week, I think, was the Nick Chubb injury, and that was in the Cleveland Pittsburgh game. Tore his ACL, going to be out for the season, and he had a similar kind of injury in college, which was severe. That there was talk of it being basically a career-ending thing when he was at Georgia, and
Hmm.
so there are some people very, very nervous about how this is going to play out with him, and you know, hey, fingers crossed. I love Chubb. He's one of my favorite running backs. He's like a old school, just hard nosed runner. Um, and still very young in his career. It'd be a shame. But with the way the technology is today, it seems like these guys come back from these ACLs more times than not. You just never know.
Yeah, and I when it happened, like apparently I wasn't paying that close attention to the game, but apparently from what I read is like it was so bad they refused to show the replay on TV.
Okay. Yeah, see, I heard somebody said they heard a pop, and it was just
Yeah,
like, ooh, that's not a good thing.
and
So,
and then like I had messaged you, and it was like for the 5,000th time, this is why you don't cut Kareem Hunt. But
yeah, and they
then
brought him back.
yeah, and what's his face? Ford. What's his first name?
Oh,
Jerome
Jerome
Ford
Ford.
had a fucking baller game. So I was like, yeah, maybe they don't need Kareem Hunt. So I was kind of surprised with how well Ford did that they went out and re-signed Kareem Hunt.
Yeah. Well, they lost a few guys other than Hunt last year, and so I think that they looked at Ford as sort of like an unknown commodity, and they wanted to have at least somebody else in that running back room. And I mean, they got him on a good deal. I think it's like 1 year up to 4 million or something. And so,
Yeah.
you know what you're getting with him, and I think that's pretty good value for a guy that can run it and catch it. So, but yeah, and then I would say the other big news was Trevon Diggs, the cornerback from the Cowboys. He tore his ACL in practice this week.
Hmm.
He's also going to be out for the season. And that defense was freaking looking insane. He was a big part of it. They're big ball hawking cornerback, so that's going to affect them, no doubt.
Yeah, I had commented, and we'll get to it a little bit more. I did my power rankings, and I hadn't heard about the like I'd heard he left practice. I hadn't heard about the severity by the time I did my rankings, and I was looking. I was like, maybe I shouldn't have done that, seeing as Diggs is going to be out now. But hey, it is what it is.
Yeah,
And
you can
there,
always
but I
adjust
mean
after this week.
that's that defense is so good. I don't know if they'll really miss Diggs. I mean, I hate to say it, but that
Yeah, I mean, they
defense is
still have
playing
Stephon
so.
Gilmore. They've got guys, but yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, Diggs definitely was the ball hawk. All right, so then in other injury related news, not quite as severe, but you've got Anthony Richardson, uh, had a concussion in last week's game, had to leave early on. Gardner Minshew took over. Looks like Anthony Richardson's still in the concussion protocol,
Hmm.
and he's going to be out for this weekend. Then another rookie quarterback, Bryce Young, he ended up with an ankle injury after last week, and he is expected to be ruled out for Sunday's game with that same ankle injury. Um,
He's actually out. I had
okay,
read
so
that
it's
he was
definitive right now. He's
yeah,
out.
he was out a minimum of one, probably 2 weeks. I was gonna look it up on fantasy just and then I just got distracted.
I got you. Yeah, and then you got Austin Eckler, same thing. He missed last week with an ankle injury. It's starting to linger. He's going to be out again this week.
Yeah, and Bryce Young is listed as out already for this week.
Gotcha. Okay. And so then, those were just the big ones that I caught. I did also see Cam Akers was traded from the Rams to the Vikings. All I heard was it was a couple late round picks that got swapped, nothing big.
Yeah, it was so the Cam Akers thing was a surprise because like week one he looked all right, and then all of a sudden he was a non-injury.
Yeah. They barely
Did
gave
not
him any
coach's
carries in
decision.
week one, though. And so it was like
Yeah,
something
and
was
then
going on in the background.
yeah, well, something's kind of been going on in the background for a year now. It
Yeah, for
wasn't,
sure. Yeah.
but I thought he had a decent, I guess so. Well, Kyron Williams only had 64 yards, so he must not, and he was the leader. So
Yeah.
and he had 22 carries, but he only got 29 yards, so he didn't have that stellar of a performance. He out touched Kyron Williams though.
He had 22 carries or 22 snaps.
22 carries,
Oh, man. I thought it
one
was,
1.3 yards per carry.
and that was in week one.
That was in week one.
Oh my gosh. I heard it was like barely any, but I must have been mistaken.
Yeah, so they had a total of 40 rushing plays, 22 to Akers, 15 to Kyron Williams, and 3 to Stafford.
Okay. Well, I mean, hey, the Vikings, they got Madison, and now they're bringing in Akers. I don't know if that means there's concerns with Madison, or if they just wanted to have some more depth. But either way, the Rams got sick of him, and now he's with the Vikings.
Yeah, well, if I remember correctly on the depth chart, it was pretty sparse after
Madison.
Madison in Minnesota. Yeah, they
Yeah.
had Tyler Chandler. Oh, I guess Chandler. I guess they still had Miles Gaskin. I didn't realize he was still there,
Mm.
or he was there, but I don't think he got much. Yeah, he didn't. He's had a total of he played in one game, no carries so far this year.
Okay. All right. So then in other news, the 49ers, they've extended both Kyle Shanahan and uh, oh my gosh, I just drew a
Lynch.
freaking yeah, John Lynch, their GM. Holy cow, I must be getting well, James. I've been up since 5 a.m. That happens, right? So
Yeah,
yeah, you know that world well, waking up early and having long days. So and then yeah, I mean rightfully so. Those guys, they have built a powerhouse, and they have just been snake bitten with injuries every year, but they still find a way to be a dominant team despite all the adversity.
hmm
You just hope that one of these years it can all come together because they could make that Super Bowl run. And so, you know, I like seeing both those guys getting extended. And I think from what I heard, I think they did this before, but like their contracts are like aligned where, you know, they have the same amount of time on them. So they're kind of tied to the hip with each other.
yeah, exactly.
All right, and then the last piece I got for tonight, James, is Alan Williams, the former defensive coordinator for the Bears. I guess after their rough first 2 weeks start here, he has decided to resign from his
Well,
position.
it's a little bit more than he resigned from his position.
Tell me, my man.
And I don't know the full details about it, but he resigned after the FBI raided his house.
Oh my goodness, I didn't hear any of that.
Yeah, I like it's the details on it are
I thought it was just that
sparse.
he was sucking so bad he threw in the towel.
No, he has some shit going on.
I would say
Some
so.
real
I would say
shit
so.
going on.
Yeah.
So he so what it says is he resigned amidst unusual circumstances. He's out for the Bears, blah blah blah. That multiple Chicago outlets reported that authorities had raided his Chicago area home. Um, his quote was, "I am taking a step back to take care of my health and my family.
Okay.
I appreciate the blah blah blah, but there's been nothing about. But apparently there were reports that the FBI was at like the Chicago Bears facility too, but then the Bears denying the rumors. But like I've read a lot. I haven't found much information on why his house was raided by the FBI,
Okay.
but it was a lot of reports that his house was raided by the FBI.
Uh, All right, not good. Well, you want to do some surprise games, or do you have a couple news pieces that you want to hit on that I missed?
Um, it was. I think. I thought you were gonna miss the the FBI or the Bears assistant resigning, but apparently, Chicago police there was a burglary at Soldier Field on Wednesday,
Okay.
and it apparently $100,000 of equipment and damage to Soldier Field.
How are these people getting into the stadiums? Like, wasn't it last year some dude drove his car on the Cleveland Browns
Uh-huh.
stadium or something? Like, how the hell are you getting into these places? They should be pretty damn secure.
Yeah, and but apparently the stuff that was stolen didn't belong to the stadium. It belonged personally to the groundskeeper.
Oh, that sucks. So yeah, it's not even like the team getting hurt. It's a individual person getting hurt.
Yeah,
I mean, it sucks either way, but it's just like that just makes it worse. Hopefully the team covers the guy.
yeah, hopefully. But I'm really trying to figure out why the FBI raided Alan Williams' home.
Well, if you find out, let me know. But yeah, let's talk about our surprise games from the week. And I'll just start by asking you, man, like how surprised were you about Seattle over Detroit?
I was real surprised, and the reason I was real surprised is because of the fact of how it happened.
Okay.
It was, it felt like honest, if I'm being honest, it felt like the Lions had that game in hand at hand, and then all of a sudden they just let it slip away,
Yeah, they stopped
and
playing defense.
yeah, and it's like yeah, they were
Oh, because they bottled up Kenneth Walker in the first half.
yeah
He did have that short little touchdown run, but he had like barely any yards. And then all of a sudden, it just was like, oh, we forgot. And I know some guys got hurt, but it just was embarrassing on defense, man.
mhm. It was embarrassing defense, but when I look at the box score or the scoring summary, and it's like, well, actually they came back to tie the game. They were down
Yeah.
by 10 points. So but it felt like it turned. And then I'm really pissed off about that fucking last play because Hutchinson was fucking held and the refs let that shit go.
Yeah.
And he was held and he would have sacked fucking Geno Smith and they let that shit go and he threw the touchdown. And that's fucking bullshit to me.
I got you. Yeah, I was nervous about it, obviously, because we lost to them last year.
Yeah.
And, the Lions have had a ton of hype, but, it's like, as much as we want to back them, and I picked them in my picks, but it's like you always have to be nervous with the Lions because they just haven't proven anything in forever. And so,
Yeah.
it's great they got the win at Kansas City in week one, but, your first home game against Seattle, especially with Seattle just losing to the Rams the week before, I mean, shit, man. They should have pulled that one off, and,
Yeah. Well,
just a
that's
bad
kind
look
of
that they didn't.
that made me a little. The fact that Seattle was coming off a loss made me a little nervous for the game, if I'm
Yeah,
being
because you knew they had to
honest.
try and save some face.
Yeah.
But still, it's all right. All right. So what about Pittsburgh over Cleveland, man?
So, like my model had Cleveland winning the game, but if you go to the history of it, like I think it's like now like 15 or 16 in a row that Cleveland's lost at Pittsburgh. So it's not as much of a surprise. And also with Chubb going out, and they still kept to the game.
Yeah, I was
So
just surprised the way that Pittsburgh won. It was
mhm,
basically all defense.
yeah, it was, and
And
like
yeah, it's 2 weeks in a row now that their offense looks very anemic. And I get it. Cleveland's defense, they looked great in week one. They looked pretty good again last week. And then obviously Pittsburgh had to play San Francisco in week one. So it's kind of like, hey, maybe you give them a pass twice because they just played really good defensive teams. But, at some point you got to see Kenny Pickett in that offense really start getting into gear here. And I think they did maybe starting in the second half of that game a little bit, but it's not where it needs to be for them offensively.
You want to hear some annoying shit about that game?
Sure.
I had fucking Pittsburgh's defense
Okay.
for fantasy. After that performance in week 1 and
Oh, you
how
benched
Pittsburgh's
him.
offense, no. It gets even worse. And Pittsburgh's offense played in week 1. I dropped Pittsburgh and picked up Cleveland.
Oh man. Well, it's there's no crystal ball, James. There's no crystal ball.
So yeah, that fucking shit pisses me off. But that's a whole nother story.
It's just fantasy. It's just
No, I
fantasy.
know.
But yeah.
I know, but it's just like that decision to wave Pittsburgh because I stream my defenses in fantasy. I don't latch on. I look at the
Yeah.
performance, look at who they're playing, and go like that.
That's a
and
good
like,
way to go.
And it's just I'm just so fucking pissed off at myself for that.
All right. So what about the last one for me was the Titans beating the Chargers. And, it seems like I shouldn't be surprised because Eckler was out and the Chargers just always destroy themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But man, it's just like when you look at the talent on those rosters, it just is like no way should the Chargers be losing that game, man. It's just,
Well,
and I
if you
love Vrabel, but it's just like, geez.
if you go back to the tape from last week, and I forgot to send you this fucking message,
Yeah, and I
it's
didn't get to
on me.
watch this game, so I only got to read about it. But yeah, tell me,
So
man.
it's on me. If you go back to the tape from last week's show, I said my model for the winner of this game depends on if Eckler's playing or not. If
I
Eckler's
remember
out,
you
my
saying that,
model
man.
has
Yeah,
Tennessee winning.
yeah.
And then I found out Eckler's out, and I forgot to send you the fucking message that I was switching to Tennessee.
Oh, so you got to put an asterisk next to that one.
So I'm no, not putting an asterisk next to that one. My pick is my pick, but my point is I'm
Yeah,
not
your model
surprised.
was that close that if Eckler was out, it would have swung it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm not surprised that Tennessee won the game. The real surprise to me, and it's more of a season surprise now than just from this past week. What the fuck is wrong with Kansas City's offense?
They've got Kelsey, and that's it, man.
Yeah, I mean, they got Kelsey back and they scored less points in week 2 than they did in week 1.
I think those wide receivers are genuinely that bad right now. They're having a hard time getting open. They're having a hard time catching the ball when they are open. And I think part of the problem also is that they're not always running the routes that Mahomes thinks they're running. And it's just putting them in a bad spot, man. And there's no veteran presence in the wide receiver room. It's all guys like in their first or second year, man. Or I guess
Yeah,
like maybe
but
Tony's like in his third year or something now, but still
but
very young.
but statistically, Mahomes still threw for 300 yards. I think he threw for 300 yards, over 300 yards in both games. I'm double checking that, but no, he had 226 against the Lions. He was 21 for 39, 226, 29 for 41, 305 against. So I mean, against Jacksonville, he still had a
Yeah.
71% completion percentage. He had 300 yards. He 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Like,
They just need a real wide receiver, man. And
yeah,
not like a real wide receiver is not the right way to put it, but they need a guy that's a veteran because these guys are just too young, a little too raw. That's just my opinion,
yeah.
you
And
know.
like the surprise to me from the game is, well, Sky Moore led, which fucking pisses me off again because I benched Sky Moore, um,
Keep
led the
talking.
team
I'll be right back. I can hear you
led the
though.
team in yards at 70 yards, and like Kelsey only had 4 receptions on 9 targets. It's like you look at like the players like Sky Moore, 3 receptions on 3 for 4, 75% reception. Uh, Justin Watson, 60%, 3 for 5, 3 for 5. Noah Gray caught all 3 passes thrown to him. Kadarius Toney caught all 5 passes thrown to him. McKinnon caught all 3. But you look at Kelsey. Kelsey caught less than 50% of the passes thrown his way. Like everybody
Well, I
else,
didn't see it, but I would imagine that they were double, triple teaming the shit out of him.
yeah, but it's just like, so like their fumbles. Justin Watson, they had 2 lost fumbles. They fumbled the ball, fumbled 5. Well, that math makes no fucking sense, but um, so
Yeah,
so
and
it
I
says
think that Mahomes will get them there because he's that good. It's just that their lack of experience in the wide receiver room is showing.
yeah, but like I'm saying that like the experience in the receiver room, it's not that bad. Yeah, against Detroit, Kadarius Toney had a terrible game and dropped the ball all the time, but they barely missed any passes
Okay,
thrown to
okay. I hear you, man. Well, we got to keep an eye on it.
And the other surprise to me was how and we can move on. I'll just mention it and I'll get to it more. How Chicago didn't change their offense
Okay. After the
at all.
robotic comments.
No, no, no. After week 1, so the what I read was I seriously read this for Tampa Bay. Todd Bowles ignored the Green Bay game because for Chicago because the offense that was ran looked so terrible. He didn't think there was a chance in hell they would run and use the same offense they used against Green Bay. And the thing they did is they ran the exact same offense, no fucking adjustments against Tampa Bay.
Yeah, because they're like, he thinks we're going to change it, so we're just going to keep using it, and it'll be better. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but
Well,
that's I don't understand that. Like
yeah.
why would you not make the adjustment? And I reflected that in my power rankings, which we can move on to.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Let's do that. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. We'll make our segue here. So we're going on to our week 3 power rankings, and so yeah, James, when you're ready, man, just give me your 1 through 5.
All right, so no change at number 1. I have San Francisco at number 1. San Francisco, the offense is leaving a little bit to be desired for them, but I just think I think they're clearly far and above the best team in the league right now.
Okay.
And Purdy will get there. Then I have Dallas at 2. Dallas, I moved them up 2 spots. Yeah, I moved Philadelphia down even though they won the game, but I thought they struggled against Minnesota, who Philadelphia is the far superior team in that matchup, and they struggled a little bit, barely won. So I dropped Philadelphia down 1, and then this one I don't know what to do with this team. I
Oh
do not
yeah.
know what to do with Cincinnati. Like seriously, I dropped them down 1 spot off the loss to Baltimore. But I like it feels to me like my heart and my gut is telling me that they're one of the best top 5 teams in the league. But what I'm seeing on the field is the exact opposite. It's the
Okay.
one of the bottom 5 teams in the league. And I'm being really slow moving them.
Yeah, it's still early. I got you.
And then I have Atlanta at number 2, or number 5. I moved them up 1 spot. Uh, they beat Green Bay. They barely beat Green Bay. They showed a lot of grit, but also a few of the teams that I had ahead of them last week, or the one team I had ahead of them last week, I fucking gave up on. Um, and killed. So they dropped out, and Atlanta by default moved up 1 spot.
I got you. Okay. Well, and I like seeing that because I got Atlanta lower, but I moved them up in a pretty healthy kind of way, which I thought was maybe a little bit aggressive. But it's good seeing that you got them this high. And so, yeah, one for me. In fact, my 1, 2, and 3 didn't change. So I got Philly, Kansas City, Buffalo. They all got a win. I didn't want to move them. I do like San Francisco maybe a little bit more than some of these teams, but it's still kind of early, and I want the board to like organically sort itself out. And so at 4, I got Baltimore. I like the win over Cincy, but I think Cincy has some question marks, like you're kind of like alluding to, and so I moved them up to 1 spot, and then San Francisco I moved up to 1 spot. I wanted to leapfrog Baltimore with San Francisco. Um, but it's like the Rams gave them a pretty darn good fight, and like you're saying, yeah, the offense is leaving something to be desired. But then also, like I was saying, it's still early in the year, and this is just going to kind of sort itself out in the coming weeks, I think. And so,
Mm-hmm.
so I just wanted the board to kind of have a little bit of harmony. So back to you at 6, man.
All right, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 for me all moved up 2 spots.
Okay.
And one of them, 6, Detroit moved up 2 spots even though they lost. And part of that was because I think there was, with Detroit, I think they're a top 10 team and they beat Kansas City. So I'm keeping them ahead of Kansas City for the time being. Maybe get to like week 4, 5, or 6,
Sure.
and we might see some separation there. But right now we're just a game away or a week away from them Detroit beating Kansas City. Plus, and they moved up 2 spots. All these teams moved up 2 spots because I took teams that I had at 5 and 7, or yeah, 5 and 7, I think it was. Let me double check that. Yeah, 5 and 7. I took 5 and 7 and killed their asses. So Detroit moved up 2 spots. Kansas City moved up 2 spots to 7. New Orleans moved up 2 spots to 8. Baltimore moved up 2 spots to 9, and Buffalo moved up 2 spots to 10.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Yeah, my 6 through 10, I've got the Cowboys, then the Dolphins, then the Jets, then the Browns, then the Bengals. And so Dallas went up 1. Defense totally legit. We know that Trevon Diggs, that's going to be maybe a bit of an issue. We do need to see more out of their offense, for the change with McCarthy calling plays and whatever else. It has not been impressive by any means. With the Dolphins, I moved them up 3. I thought it was a good quality win over a division rival, and they're trending in the right direction so far. Although I did see Jalen Waddle's questionable this week with a concussion.
Mm-hmm.
The Jets at 8, I dropped them 4, and this is just where the post-Rodgers slide begins. Zach Wilson looked freaking horrible, and they, they might have won that game if it wasn't for Zach Wilson, to be honest. And so,
Uh-huh.
so I could have gone further, but I'm pacing myself here because they do still have one of the top defenses, and if Zach Wilson could just not turn the ball over, just hand it off. Just don't turn it over. Just hand it off. They could probably win a lot of games. And
Yeah.
then with Cleveland, I dropped them down 1. I think that if Chubb stayed in that game, didn't get hurt, it would have been different. I think Cleveland would have won that game.
Yeah.
Um, and their defense is still amazing. I want to see how they adjust now without Chubb. Can Watson carry them? I mean, they're paying him to basically, and so let's see what happens. But then Cincinnati, I've got at 10. I dropped them down a spot, even though they lost to one of my top teams. It's tough. Like you're saying, they still have Burrow, even though he's got like some injury concerns now again this week. Um,
It's the same calf injury that he
yeah,
had injured in the preseason.
yeah. It's like popping up now. He's like day to day again, and so it's yeah, they're on the watch list. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Back to you at 11, man.
All right, 11 and 12 are the aforementioned teams that I dropped out of the top 10, which are the Chargers. I dropped them 6 spots to number 11. Uh, this could have been a bigger slide if if Eckler was playing this past week.
Yeah,
But the Chargers, and it's also a function. The problem with the Chargers is the coach. That's 100% the problem there.
yeah.
I don't know if Brandon Staley knows how to coach American football. He might be trying to coach European football instead or something. I don't know what the fuck's going on there. The defense looks atrocious right now for a defensive-minded coach.
I know,
It's
dude. Yeah.
And to think Chargers fans, you could have had Sean Payton if Spanos was not cheap. Number 12 is Vegas. They dropped down 5 spots. They just got their asses handed to them against Buffalo. I think may have been a little harsh on them, but I don't trust what's his face that's there. I don't think he knows how to coach football. What's his face? McDaniel.
Yeah.
I think I don't trust McDaniel, so this is also kind of a coaching thing. Miami, even though they won, they stayed at 13. It's just I couldn't with me dropping the Chargers in Vegas down so far, and most of the other teams ahead of them winning. It was hard to really move them up.
Sure.
I do like what I see in Miami. I do see them moving up into my top 10 like you have them, but just not quite yet.
I got you.
Seattle moved up 1 spot after the win at Detroit. This is also that same situation where a lot of teams won in front of them. I wasn't going to move them up to 6. I was not going to move Detroit down to 14 because I really think the Lions are the better team in that matchup. And then Cleveland, it's basically flip Seattle and Cleveland. Seattle won, Cleveland lost, so I dropped Cleveland down 1 spot to 15.
I got you.
Which I think is high for Cleveland, but a lot of teams around them lost, and
Yeah.
I didn't feel comfortable putting the team that I'm going to talk about at 16 into the top 15.
Okay, I got you. All right, so for me at 11, I've got the Falcons. I moved them up 5 spots. And so I thought I was being aggressive with that move until I saw how high you had them on the board, and I feel better about it. Part of their boost was because of the Lions Seahawks game. That's where I really jacked my board up, is just like looking at that and saying, nope, I got to do something about this. But we'll talk about that in a minute. At 12, I've got the Saints. I moved them up 5 spots. Same kind of thing. It was sort of like a bigger board adjustment with that Lions Seahawks game kind of throwing a wrench in things for me. 13, I've got the Steelers. I moved them up 1. I'm going to be worried if they struggle on offense a third time here coming up. This is going to be a way too high of a ranking if they can't work out the bugs in the offense. And, some of this started with the model, and the model likes their defense, and I maybe boosted some ratings for Pickett more than I should have at quarterback on offense, and so I'm going to have to start ripping that out and kind of stripping it down. At 14, I've got the Commanders. Week 1 was an ugly win, but they got it. Week 2 was just a little bit better. Same thing. They're finding ways to win. And so I like that. I wanted to give them some respect here, so I bumped them up 4 spots. I think their defense is really good. And I think offensively with Sam Howell, he's going to get better as the season goes on. And especially with Bieniemy getting more creative as they have time together offensively. But Brian Robinson's running hard, and they have potential. So I like what I'm seeing in Washington. And then at 15, I've got the Chargers. I dropped them down 4 spots. They just, they keep killing themselves basically. And I agree with you. I think it's coaching. It doesn't help that Eckler was out, but they still have so much fucking talent that it's just mind-boggling. And, you say, oh, they could have had Sean Payton. I don't know, man. I'd fucking trade a first-round pick to get Sean Payton right now because I bet you his ass already wants out of Denver. So,
Yeah.
All right, back to you at 16, man.
All right, 16, I have Tennessee. I jumped them. I think this is my biggest move up. Yeah, it is. My biggest move up. I jumped them 6 spots. I had the Chargers in the top 10, and they beat the Chargers, and so I had to give them respect. Like, there were a lot of teams in this range that lost also. So it's like every team that was behind the Charger or behind Tennessee lost.
Yeah.
Or in front of Tennessee, sorry, lost. So
helped
it's
float
kind
them
of
up the board.
Helped float them up a lot. Jacksonville, I dropped them 1 spot with the loss. The reason it was only one spot was because, again, a lot of teams in here lost, and so I took Tennessee up. I took the team I had at 18 and dropped them way the fuck down.
Okay.
So that means that the Jets only dropped one spot.
I just saw it. Oh, we'll get there. We'll get there. But I just saw it. Okay.
We'll get there. Jets only dropped one spot. I think I gave them too much credit for the win against Buffalo. I gave them a 4-spot bump after beating Buffalo, so this is kind of recorrecting. Minnesota stayed the same. They kept it close against Philadelphia, and they should not have been in that game at all. So Minnesota stayed at 19. Carolina, they stayed at 20. I mean, they kept it close against New Orleans. I have New Orleans. Where do I even have New Orleans? I have New Orleans in my top 10. So
yeah, I thought Carolina played a good game. They kept it close, man.
And I think I like what I'm seeing. It's too bad he's out because I like what I'm seeing out of Bryce Young.
Yeah. Yeah, he just needs more time. It's just about getting some experience.
Exactly.
But, they're hanging in there, man. All right, so for me at 16, I got Jacksonville. I dropped them down one spot. I mean, hey, whatever. Kansas City got Kelsey and Chris Jones back, and Jacksonville lost, but it was a good game. 17, I have the Patriots. I dropped them down 4 spots. It's very obvious that the offense is what's holding back that team. I think Bill O'Brien is going to help them tremendously, but it's going to take time. And, he made comments this past week about them being inconsistent. You can see there are some sparks there with Mac Jones that we didn't see at all last year. And so I do think
we
it
did
can
see
come
that. We
around.
saw that the first year under McDaniel.
Absolutely.
We saw sparks 2 years ago. And then with the Judge
Patricia garbage
experiment
time.
was fucking ridiculous.
Yeah. So, a real offensive coordinator, what do you know? He's bringing it back to life, but it was fucking dead, and now he's got to bring it back to life. It's hard to do. But he's getting there. At 18, I've got Seattle. This is where I really just jacked my board up like crazy. I moved them up 8 spots. I wanted to put them above Detroit because now 2 years in a row they've bested Detroit. And they were a team last year that nobody gave any respect to, and they came out of nowhere, and they had just a slightly better year than Detroit. And so now the same thing's happening, but Detroit's getting all the hype, and Detroit lost. And so I dropped Detroit down 7. I've got them at 19. Kills me to do that, but at the same time, I feel like I should have been more conservative with them to start the year, just knowing what I've always known about the Lions. And I'm going to bring them down now and make them work their way back up again. And then at 20, I've got the Buccaneers. They are super streaky, my friend, but they're freaking winning, and I like it. So I gave them a 3-spot bump. I would love it if they could keep winning. I think, I'm not a Baker Mayfield hater. I just think he has a cap on his ceiling. But I also believe they've got great talent on defense. They've got 2 amazing wide receivers. Rashad White's looking good at running back. The team's got potential. If Baker can just be a field general, they can get shit done, man. All right, back to you at 21.
All right, 21, I have New England. They stayed the same. It's kind of a function, even though they lost to Miami, it's kind of a function of a team we'll get to later. 22, I have Pittsburgh. They beat Cleveland. I moved them up only 1 spot because and a lot of it has to do with the concerns I see on offense. 23, the Giants, again, they moved up 1 spot, and they moved up 1 spot because they won. They beat one of my dumpster fire teams, so it's not that impressive. But they finally got off the deck and actually scored a fucking point this season. I think they started the first 6 quarters. It was like 60-0 that they were outscored.
Yeah.
So they leave a lot to desire. I see them moving down next week after last night's performance. 24, I have Washington. I bumped them 2 spots. I really think Washington's better than the Giants, but I started Washington below the Giants, so it's going to take a little bit more than beating Denver by 2 points
Yeah.
to take them ahead. And then at 25, I have the Rams. They stayed the same. It's really a one spot drop with a team ahead of them dropping the fuck down.
Yeah.
So they stayed the same.
All right, I got you. I got you. All right, so for me at 21, I've got the Titans. And so I moved them up just one spot because even though they beat the Chargers, I think that that was about the Chargers really beating themselves than Tennessee being a better team. I mean, I'd love to see Tennessee just keep winning games, and I'll gladly move them up. But I just, something about that game just doesn't sit right with me because the Chargers always screw themselves. So.
Mhm.
At 22, I've got the Giants. I moved them down three. Yeah, hey, whatever. They won, but they look like fucking shit. And so I just thought I got to keep correcting where I had them on my board, which is bringing them down.
Mhm.
And then at 23, I've got the Raiders. Same kind of thing. I dropped them three. They didn't get a win, but I dropped them three, even though they lost to Buffalo, which is one of my top teams. And part of it is just that they, like, I'm trying to think if I remember this right, Josh Jacobs had like fucking basically 0 yards. He had like less than 10 yards in that game or something, or maybe he got some in garbage time, but dude, he had like zero production in that game. And I don't know if he got hurt or what because I didn't hear anything about an injury for him, but uh, I don't like McDaniels and I don't trust the Raiders, and so I dropped him.
Josh Jacobs had actually, get it right, he
Negative,
had -2 yards
negative on how many carries?
on 9 carries,
Oh,
and he had 51 yards receiving, but he had -2 yards rushing.
okay, that's dysfunction is what that is.
Well, they
Okay,
only they only rushed the play. They only had 39 total plays. Fucking Buffalo had almost as many passing plays as Vegas had total plays in the game.
you're just helping me prove my point. It's
No, I know.
dysfunction.
It's dysfunction. I'm
Yeah,
100% agreeing with you. I'm
yeah,
not
yeah.
I'm
I
not
appreciate
debating
that.
it.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
It's just like it's bad when Jimmy Garoppolo has more rushing yards than you and Jimmy Garoppolo only has one rushing yard.
And you're on the fucking you were on the franchise tag as a
Uh-huh.
running back, man. And I don't think that's Josh Jacobs' fault. I think that's Josh McDaniels' fault.
Yeah, on the franchise tag, Josh Jacobs has a total of 46 rushing yards this
Yeah.
season.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a solid 1,000+ yard rusher. Just if you throw a play at the wall and see what happens, but
Hmm.
whatever. So at 24, I got the Broncos. I dropped them three. I really felt like I could have given a pass for the loss in week one, but now you got two bad weeks in a row, and I just am worried that we're going to have last year play all over again. I think they're looking a little better offensively, but they're just not scoring and it's just not happening. And so
Hmm.
they're definitely on my watch list. And then at 25, I've got Minnesota. I dropped them one. I didn't see the game. I like that you're trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. The box score definitely looks like they kept it interesting, but I'm still just super speculative. I've told you a million times how I felt about their crazy 11 freaking whatever one score game wins last year, despite a
Hmm.
point deficit and whatever else, in their defense looking like trash. Man, I'm very nervous about Minnesota. I just don't know how they can even come close to what they did last year. So
Yeah.
back to you at 26, man.
26, I have Tampa Bay. I started Tampa Bay off really low on my board. In fact, week one, Tampa Bay I had at 29.
Okay.
So as I see them winning more and more, like last week I moved them up one spot, and then I moved them up 2 spots. As I see Baker Mayfield not being a screw up,
Hmm.
more and more they're going to slowly move up my board, but it's going to be a very slow move up. Indianapolis, I have at 27. This is I'm not going to discount them because Richardson's out this week. I really like what I'm seeing out of the team, and in 2 years, they can be really really good. They need
It
like
could
their
be
first
next year, dude. It could
yeah.
be next year.
If they had what's his face what's the
Oh,
running back?
Jonathan Taylor.
If they had Jonathan Taylor, they would be 2-0 right now. That's how close they were in week one. They
Yeah.
lost week one to Jacksonville 31 to
And,
21.
and, and hey,
But
Gardner
but
Minshew
it,
looked good, but we know that this is all about Anthony Richardson and his development.
yeah, exactly. And also part of the fact that they moved up 4 spots is because when they crept up the board a little bit, I had them close to Houston, which I have at 28, dropped down 1 spot, who they just beat.
Sure. Yeah.
29, I have Green Bay. They didn't drop on my board, but we'll get to the reason why later. It's we're getting there.
You keep teasing with it, but I got you.
And then at 30, Denver, it's the same thing. They really should have dropped, but when we get to the dumpster fire,
Yeah.
it'll
And
be
by
clear.
process of elimination, people should probably know who it is by now, but I know that they're not like adding it up and like crossing teams off the list as we go. So,
Yeah.
all right. So at 26 for me, my man, I've got the Rams. I dropped them one, and I'll tell you what, I was actually tempted to bump them despite the
Hmm.
loss because,
Hmm.
especially on offense, they are showing a lot more signs of life than I was expecting out of them. I worry about the quality of their offensive line, but they're getting shit done, man. And I still think they're a bad team overall, but they're keeping things interesting, which is nice. At
And
20,
and on
yeah, go ahead.
the Rams, the one thing I wanted to point out is it definitely looks like Stafford is 100% back from his elbow injury. Was it his elbow last year? Yeah, I think it was his
Yeah,
elbow.
yeah, he had an elbow, and then later on it was his neck, I think. Yeah,
Yeah, whatever injury. It looks like he's 100%. Yeah, he didn't throw any touchdowns in week one, but he has 334 yards and 307. He has 641
yeah,
yards on the season
and that's
on
without Cooper Cup.
without Cooper Cup. He's
Yeah,
averaging he averaged last week he averaged 5.6 yards per attempt. The week before it was 8.8 yards per attempt. Um, so he's definitely showing the touchdowns are the concern,
yeah.
was the concern in Detroit.
But look at Kansas City, man. We talked about them earlier. You know,
Hmm.
sometimes you need a receiver that knows how to get it done in the end zone, and he
Yes.
just doesn't have that right now. But for as much of a Stafford hater as I am, I'm giving the dude props big time right now because he's fucking making it work with not a very good supporting cast, man.
Well, what's this? Puka is the
Oh yeah,
first, like he's the first receiver ever
Puka
to have
Nakua.
Nakua. Sorry, dude is fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, and then I don't know
But
how did that one dude I remember you liked this guy a couple years ago, Tutu Atwell. Didn't he do good in week one? Did he follow that up again this past week?
uh, I I meant to look like this past week. I mean, he had 7 receptions for 77 yards. That's
That's solid, man.
that's solid. I mean, he's been the number two behind Puka Nakua, who is like any stat category for receptions. He's the first player to have 25 receptions in his first 2 games. Um, have over most yards in your first 2 games. This and that, and it's like I forget all these damn
Yeah.
stats, but
Now you got to figure out how to score, man.
no,
What's that?
I'm sitting here giving him credit, And then 3 hours ago, his status has changed to questionable for the game this week.
Nakua?
Yeah,
Oh
he has an
no.
oblique injury.
Uh, all right. Well, you can still pump him up, but yeah, that
Yeah,
sucks.
that sucks. But
All
but
right.
yeah, Atwell's doing pretty well this year too. So
Yeah, that's good. All right. Well, let me keep going here. So at 27, I got the Packers. It was close. I think they're showing signs of life. I just am still, I'm, it's almost like you and me flipped a little bit on Jordan Love, man. I know that you liked the week one performance. I was super suspect of it. And then, Aaron Jones not playing last week, I think that was a factor. I think that their defense is really good. I think a lot better than people talk about. Um, and I think the offense could come along, but I'm just not sold that they're there yet. And
mhm.
so I like having them in this range on my board for now.
See, against Atlanta, I thought the issue with Green Bay was the defense. I thought Jordan Love played a decent game.
Okay.
Um, I mean, yeah, he was a little bit over 50%, 14 for 25, 151 yards, 3 touchdowns, but the key stat is no interceptions. He had,
Yeah.
and that's the concern I had with him was his inability to not turn the ball over. He consistently turned the ball over every time I've seen him play,
Yeah,
and
that's important.
he's not turning the ball over now. And that's what flipped it for me on him. I
All
thought
right.
he had a good performance. I thought the offense had a decent game. Um, I mean, rushing obviously is going to be a little bit down, but they allowed 211 rushing yards.
I know, but that might just be Atlanta, man.
It might be, but they allowed 450 yards of total offense.
All right. All right. Well, I mean, look, you're making the case to warm me up on Jordan Love in time. Um, I don't know. I'm not gonna ditch their defense just yet because I do like their defense. But all right, I'm gonna keep going. So then at 28, I got the Colts. I moved them up 3 spots. Whether it's with Anthony Richardson or Gardner Minshew, they're making it work on offense, and so I,
Hmm.
I like what I'm seeing with Indianapolis. I'm actually very impressed with Indianapolis, to be honest. Then at 29, I've got the Bears. I dropped them down 1 spot. I think their defense is just flat out embarrassing. Their offense, for all the hype they were getting coming into this season, and I do believe they have potential. They're just not firing on all cylinders by any means. But they did get the DJ Moore connection going this past week, and you can see that it might come. But that defense, I think, is going to be a major issue. And they spent some money at linebacker and tried doing things, and it's just, they're not gelling. And then at 30, I've got the Texans. I dropped them down one. My biggest concern with Houston is that you're 0-2. You had a lot of DeMeco Ryans sort of hype coming into this year, for him being a rookie coach. And it just, if you're not getting a win soon, some of that's going to rub off, or not rub off, but you're going to lose the shine of that. And it could start turning into a very depressing rookie head coach season for him. And so I just want to see those guys get something done. And I see you. What's going on with you, man?
Because I just it's funny. Is it on to me for 31-30 dumpster fire?
Oh yeah, 31, 32 dumpster fire. Yeah.
Sorry, because I went to look up. I have the Bears at 31. I dropped them 13 spots, but I went to look up their team stats
Oh
on
no.
ESPN.com, and I wanted to cite some ineptitude there. And I'm starting to look, and it says it's the Chicago Bears player stats 2023, and it has Justin Fields 427 yards passing, Khalil Herbert's leading them with 62 yards rushing, uh, DJ Moore, blah blah blah. And then I go down to the players, each player passing Jalen Hurts, rushing DeAndre Swift, Jalen Hurts, Kenneth Gainwell. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah. Error. Error.
Yeah, error. Um, so the Chicago Bears are lucky that Arizona lost
Yeah.
because I would have put them in the dumpster fire. The team is inept. The team is wasting Justin Fields. Justin Fields
Oh yeah.
is not a drop back passer. He has to have he has to have that rushing threat. He has to always be looking to, or not looking to rush the ball, but have the ability to run the ball to be successful. Net passing yards for the Bears this season 358, while they've allowed 554. Their averaging passing yards per game is 179 passing yards. Average rushing yards per game is less than 100. They're
Mm-mm.
averaging 270, 280 total yards per game.
Super low.
They've almost been, their opponents have almost doubled them up in points. 37 to 65 in 2 games, 18 and a half to 32 and a half average.
So let me give you one bright spot that I think is going to come out in time, and we're seeing just small glimpses of it because the sample size is very small. But Roshan Johnson, the rookie out of Texas, the guy that was backing up Bijan Robinson last year at
Mm-hmm.
Texas, in his very limited action so far with Chicago, has looked sneaky freaking good. And
Mm-hmm.
they elevated him to the number 2 above Deonta Foreman. Part of that was because Foreman got hurt. Um, I'm just saying, man, they need to give that dude some more carries and some more looks because when he's played, they've had a little bit of pop on offense. Just my
Mm-hmm.
opinion from what I've seen.
No, and I 100% agree with you. There's hope there, but it's not
Yeah,
translating to the field. The other hope that you have is they can move the ball.
yeah,
They have total of 36 first downs, while their opponents have a total of 34. 13 first downs by rushing, 21 first downs
yeah.
by passing.
Yeah, so
And
it's
then
like an
it's
all or nothing thing for
two by
them.
penalty. So, but they have to get it done. Their third down efficiency is like 35%. That's where the issue is.
Yeah.
But
All right, well,
it's
give
the
me your
issue goes in the.
dumpster fire.
Sorry, I felt like I had to justify
Just tear them down. Yeah,
a 13 spot drop. And like I said earlier, they ran the same inept offense they did in week 1
yeah.
against Tampa Bay in week 2 and didn't change a damn thing. And are we surprised they lost? Then at 32, I have Arizona. I thought Arizona was going to win this game.
They should have.
They should have won the
They
game.
should have won week 1 too.
Yeah,
They're oh man, oh yeah. Go ahead.
exactly. But they can't close it out.
Yeah,
And that's been the problem with Arizona in the second half of the season under Kyler Murray. It's just
yeah,
rearing its head in the start of the season. So maybe when the second half of the season comes, they'll figure out how to close it out.
yeah, yeah. All right. Yeah, my dumpster fire. So I got Carolina at 31. I dropped them down one spot. Part of this was I had to get Indianapolis up a few spots,
Mm-hmm.
and that meant like juggling Houston, Chicago, Carolina, whatever. But Carolina, they had their ups and downs against the Saints. I like what you're saying. They're hanging in there. They've got some positivity. I just want to see them get some wins, and then they'll start climbing my board. With 32 at Arizona, um, it's just we've talked about this before where sometimes when you have a rookie head coach like they do, there's sort of like an unpredictability, sort of like surprise factor of you don't know what kind of offense or defense they're going to run. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that gives your team an advantage because nobody knows what to expect. And it they had two golden opportunities just sitting there and they totally fucking messed it up. And for every week that goes on now, There's more tape about what they do on offense and defense, which is going to make it tremendously harder for them to get a win because on paper, they have dog shit talent, at least until Kyler Murray gets back. And even then, I'm still not sure that it's very good talent. It's just that you finally have a halfway decent quarterback.
Right,
So,
but also though, but that's going to be the sign of if I forget who their coach is now. Is it Gannon?
Jonathan Gannon, yeah.
If Gannon is a good coach, the sign is going to be if they make those adjustments once teams get the film and know what they're
Yeah.
trying to do.
Keep adding wrinkles.
Yeah, if they start adding those wrinkles and making adjustments, that's going to be the sign if he's a good coach or if he's a bad coach.
I got you. All right. Those are the power rankings. Let's shift some gears here. Let's go to our week 3 game picks. And I'll let you kind of like lead us through the game picks here, James. I know you've been liking doing that. And so, yeah, you had Thursday night last night. Why don't you just
So
kind of take the ball and run with it here, man?
you kicked my ass last week.
All right.
You beat the.
It's very early in the year still. But yeah, no, I did rally. You're right.
Yeah, I got 6 right. You got 10 right. My brings me to 15 correct. You have 17. 15 is good for 47%. 17 is good for 53%. So we swapped.
We're both
But
still lagging, but it's the same as it was last year. We were both lagging hard on our 65% until later in the season.
yeah, I would like to point out that I am still 100% on the season for Thursday night. We both were on San Francisco. Last night, San Francisco won. That wasn't that hard of a pick, honestly. Come on, think about it.
Yeah.
So then we have the Ravens. I'm sorry, the Colts at the Ravens. And I'll let you start while I get to my notes properly open on this.
Sure, yeah, and I'm not going to go as deep as I normally do on my analysis for these because I'm just going to be honest and telling you I still have some updates to do in the model on the rosters. I'm still missing a few from cut down day, and that's going back a few weeks now. But I'll give you my winners, and I'll give you just my basic heat map assessment. And so I'm taking Baltimore in this game. I do want to update it between now and Sunday based on what you're telling me. 7 guys being out, fairly big name guys too. Rodney Stanley, Marcus Williams. You mentioned, whoever the rest were, but that could change things. I just don't know if it's going to change things enough to flip it in my model because these guys are on opposite ends of the spectrum where I've got Baltimore as one of my top teams and Indianapolis as one of my bottom teams. And so I got to take Baltimore here until I see something totally jack things up.
Yeah, so on my model, I had once I found out they were out, I readjusted it, and it brought the game closer to almost within two-score game, but it still had Baltimore winning. The interesting thing about Baltimore, and more specifically, is what's his face, Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's completion percentage through 2 games is 74.5%.
Oh man, that's crazy high, especially for him.
For him, he has the second highest completion percentage through 2 weeks. I did not note who had the highest. I may have somewhere else, but I thought that fact was interesting that he has such a high completion percentage for a quarterback that like we've said he needs the weapons to see if he can get it done. Well, he's getting it done with the weapons.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
So the next game we have is the Tennessee Titans at the Cleveland Browns. And for me on this game, like when I model it out and putting Kareem Hunt, that's replacing Chubb with Hunt, and that's going to be fine. Interesting stat I found is so far this season, the Browns have not allowed any scores from the red zone. No touchdowns, no field goals.
Okay.
They're the first team since, if they can do it another week, they'll be the first team since 1978 to not allow any red zone points through 3 games.
Well, it'll be a tall task with Derrick Henry.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be a tall task with Derrick Henry, but so last year with Kareem Hunt coming in for Chubb, last year Hunt only trailed Chubb in rushing attempts, rushing yards, and rushing touchdowns during his previous 4 seasons. Sorry, not last year. The last 4 seasons.
Chubb's legit when he's healthy, man.
And no, right. But Hunt has the second most among running backs at the last 4 seasons, behind Chubb.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I meant Hunt is legit when he's healthy.
Yeah. When I model it out, I have Cleveland as winning the game. I have the touchdown game, but it's a low scoring touchdown game, low scoring game. So I'm gonna go with Cleveland.
Yeah, I like that pick. I'm going with Cleveland as well. I think that Vrabel obviously just coached the shit out of them and maybe got a little bit lucky against the Chargers. If he can repeat that, that would be great. I'd be ecstatic because I would love to see him win over Stefanski. I'm still concerned with what Stefanski's doing with that offense, moving to that shotgun. But they've got Watson. They kind of have to do it. I don't know, man. I see Cleveland's roster, especially with how great their defense looks right now. Even without Chubb, it looks like they should be overpowering Tennessee. And so I got to go with the model. It's got Cleveland by anywhere from 2.5 to 5 points. And so I'm sticking with that, man.
Next up, we have the Atlanta Falcons at our Detroit Lions.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Speaking of the Lions, I hear the wife sent you a picture of the girls in their new sweatshirts.
Oh yeah, man. So yeah, well, you were just saying it was their birthdays last weekend.
Their birthday was Tuesday. Was this past week?
Okay. Well, yeah.
Like
Hey, man,
Wednesday,
that's cool, man. Happy belated birthday to the girls, man.
So the Lions are actually decent against the spread under Dan Campbell, but they win 2/3 of the game, or against the spread 2/3 of the time under Dan Campbell. But when they're favorites, they're 3-3 outright against the spread as a favorite. So I was surprised by my model because my instinct told me that, based on what I've seen on the field, that Atlanta is the better team. But my model has Detroit winning the game by 5 points. So I'm going to go with my model. This week I'm going straight with my model, not overriding anything.
Nice.
And because I'm still working on trying to figure out where the glitches are in my model. And so I'm just going straight with my model. I'm on Detroit for the game.
Yeah, and try not to overthink it too much, because we were doing that last year, and the first month of the season was just highly unpredictable. And I think that's just the new NFL because of the way preseason works. It's going to be wild for that first 4 or so weeks while teams kind of find their equilibrium. And so, but I'm doing the same thing. I'm picking apart my model, and I'm like, something's not right. For me, I'm going with the Lions, and it's, counterintuitive because I've got Atlanta now higher in my power rankings, but the game is in Detroit, and I'm still hopeful, and my model still likes the Lions despite me making the adjustment in the power rankings. And so, the two of them, I just kind of have to separate somehow that, logically they can behave differently. And so, um, yeah, I'm taking Detroit, and I've got them by 4. So I'm glad that you said 5 or 5.5 or whatever it is. So you and I are pretty close there.
Yeah. So next up, we have the Saints at the Jordan Love led Packers, which actually is Jordan Love's first start at Lambeau Field in his career. The interesting thing, after the Week 1 win against Chicago, apparently Rodgers sent Jordan Love a text message, something along the lines of "Thank you for um, completing the ownership transfer," or something along
Okay.
those lines. The ownership of the
Owning the
Bears.
Bears, yeah.
Yeah. So Jordan Love, and this is why I'm on board with Jordan Love. Jordan Love leads the league in passer rating
He's got
at
a lot of touchdowns for his,
143.2.
yeah.
He's scored 20 or more fantasy points both weeks in both games in the season. The other interesting thing about this game is the Saints have held their opponents to 20 or fewer points in 10 consecutive games.
Oh, wow.
It's the second longest streak in the last 25 years, which the longest is the Patriots at 11. So, according to my model, the Saints are tying the Patriots with the 11th consecutive game holding their opponents to 20 or fewer points, and I have the Saints winning the game 27-20.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, see, this is one of my games where in my model right now it is razor thin. And so I've got the Saints winning. My model right now is less than a point. And when I see how close the Saints were against the Panthers last week, it does make me think Green Bay has a chance in this game.
Mm-hmm.
But I need to see their offense keep doing it, and then I'll have faith that Green Bay can be at that level. And I might even discount New Orleans, to be honest, because, like you're saying, the defense. Um, but yeah, I'm sticking with the model, and I'm going with the Saints here.
So, other thing I saw was apparently after the game last week, and this is a huge leadership prop to Jameis Winston. Apparently, Jameis Winston's still on the Saints, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I was making sure I wasn't smoking crack and imagining something before I went into this little story. Apparently, Jameis Winston stood there outside of the locker room and greeted every player and coach and that went into the locker room after the game before going into the locker room himself.
Well, that's nice.
That's just a leadership quality. It's a maturity quality that I'm happy to see for Winston because
Yeah.
his history does not show that maturity. Anyways, next up we have the Houston Texans at the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yes, we do.
So interestingly enough, Trevor Lawrence is 1-3 against Houston.
Damn it, man! You give me these stats, and it starts making
And
me wonder things.
in those 4 games, he's only thrown 3 touchdown passes while throwing 6 interceptions.
Divisional game, dude. Divisional game.
So Houston's 5th in the league for pressure rate at 44%, which interestingly, Trevor Lawrence, when he's pressured, he only completes 44% of his passes.
Okay. I didn't know Houston was that high, man. I'm glad you pointed that out because that's encouraging for them.
Yeah. He also CJ Stroud has, I'm going to jinx him now because
Oh
we know
boy.
what happened with Goff. has 91 pass attempts without an interception. He is 44 attempts shy of reaching the top 5 longest streaks to begin his career. Dak Prescott, 176 before an interception. Tom Brady, 162 before he threw an interception. Kyle Allen, 159. Tua Tagovailoa, however you fucking pronounce it, 153. Carson Wentz and Desmond Ridder, 134. I was surprised. Here's another one. Jaguars are 0-7 against the spread in their past 7 games as home favorites. 1-6 outright in their past 7 games as home favorites.
Oh.
All of this is telling me Houston has a shot to win this game. I won't be surprised if Houston wins this game based on all the stats, all like the last 2 years history of these teams, what's going on there with these teams. My model has Jacksonville winning 24-13.
Okay.
And so I'm going to go with Jacksonville.
Yeah, you're going with the model, not the narrative.
Yeah.
I like that. I mean, the narrative's good. You can, every now and then the narrative is right, but I think you gotta trust the model because it's a little more quantitative than qualitative, obviously. And my model's got Jacksonville. It's in Jacksonville. My heat map is almost all green for Jacksonville. I do believe Houston, like I was saying earlier, is going to be in desperation mode to get a win, but it's not going to happen this week. And so I'm taking the Jaguars.
All right.
And by the way, I drive a Jaguar, so I'm taking the Jaguars.
We have the Chargers at the Vikings, 0-2 versus 0-2. Somebody's got to win, right?
The Chargers at the Vikings. Okay, hang on. I had the Dolphins up next, but that's fine.
Oh, I skipped it. No, we'll do.
All right.
Do the Dolphins. I misaligned.
That's okay.
So we have the Broncos at the Dolphins. My eyes misaligned on the spreadsheet. What honestly can we say about good for the Broncos? Let's say the good.
They're a professional football team. That's good, right?
The Dolphins are looking to have their second straight 3-0 start under Mike McDaniel.
They're gonna get it.
Even though Jalen Waddle might be out, Russell Wilson has a QBR of 17 versus man coverage this season.
Okay.
It's the second worst in NFL history behind Kenny Pickett. The Dolphins use man coverage through the first 2 weeks 62% of the time.
Okay.
I'm not going to spend much time on this game. Miami's going to win by almost 2 touchdowns. I think 11 or more.
Yeah. I mean, so it's in Denver, right?
No, it's in Miami.
Really? Man. And I guess I'm looking at the wrong matchup in my model. I got Miami at Denver, but for one of them, it tells me which one's home and away. But wow, my model has it as a 5-point spread, which I would have thought would have been so much bigger for Miami. I think this is one of those things where I've got to dial it down because I have given way more benefit of the doubt to Sean Payton turning the team around than what they probably deserve. But my heat map's almost all green for Miami. I'm not going to overthink it. I'm going Dolphins.
Mm-hmm. Now we have the 0-2 Chargers at the 0-2 Vikings.
Yes.
So the Chargers have lost the last 4 games by 3 points or less.
Okay.
The Vikings have lost 3 consecutive games by 1 score after winning the streak before that was winning 11 consecutive games by one score or less.
Yep. Mean reversion.
Only interesting thing about this game is it's Minnesota's favored by one. Minnesota has covered the last 5 meetings against the Chargers, against the spread. The only interesting fact in this game is Keenan Allen has a shot to tie or pass Lance Allworth for second all-time receiving yards in Chargers history at 9,584.
Okay.
My
Fun
model
little
has
factoid.
my model has Minnesota winning by 10 points.
Really? Fuck, man. Yeah, we're like diverged hard on this one because I've got the Chargers winning by 9. But then again, my model doesn't believe in Minnesota and it overly believes in the Chargers. And
Mm-hmm.
so this is one of those weird things, man, where maybe I'm being too harsh on the Vikings. Clearly my model favors the Chargers and I can't figure out how to bring it to reality, but it's just such a big spread. I got to go Chargers, man.
All right. Next up, we have the 0-2 Patriots at the 1-1 Jets. I
Yes,
have a
we do.
trivia question to start the conversation about this game. When was the last time the New England Patriots started 0-2?
Last year?
No,
When was it?
2001. What
Uh,
happened the last time the Patriots started 0-2?
they won the Super Bowl?
They won the Super Bowl.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Okay.
All joking aside, Bill Belichick has won 14 straight games against the New York Jets.
Yeah, that's embarrassing for the Jets, dude, because everybody's getting a piece of the Patriots now.
Um, Also, interestingly enough, the Patriots have blocked kicks in back-to-back games this year. This is the
Okay.
second time in the last they did that in 2017 also. So they
Special
considered
teams.
to do that. Um, my model, I hate this, but I have to stick with my model. My
Okay.
model has the Jets winning 14-13.
It's tight. And it could be that kind of a game.
Yeah, and the current spread is New England by 2.5.
Yeah. I've got New
But
England by 1.
yeah, I'm gonna stick with my model and go with the Jets, even though I hate it.
Yeah. No, it's all right, man. You and I are like very close, just one way, one a little bit the other. And I was surprised it was this close. I thought that when I took Aaron Rodgers out of my roster for the Jets, that it would have been better for the Patriots. But I think that it's like, and here's the thing is it's like on paper, the Jets have the better defense, okay? But Belichick is also an amazing defensive mind. And so you got to factor that in. Um, but then on offense, the Jets have the running backs, they've got the receivers. The Patriots, yeah, they got Stevenson at running back, but they don't really have shit at receiver. It's just like, ah, man, it's a really tricky one to pick, honestly, in my opinion. But I'm gonna go with this razor thin margin and take the Patriots in my model, man.
All right. Next up, we have Buffalo at the Washington Commanders.
Buffalo Soldier. Yep. Go ahead.
Who really thought coming into this game that the Commanders would have the better record?
A very rare moment for them.
An interesting fact about the Commanders is they're tied for the league in sacks, 10, while they have also given up the second most sacks in the league, 10. That fact doesn't matter. Buffalo, since losing the Super Bowl following the 91 season to Washington, Buffalo has won 8 of the 9 matchups against the now Commanders, then Redskins.
Sure.
7 of those 8 wins have been by double digits. My model has it as another double-digit win, 27-16 Buffalo. And so I'm on Buffalo.
Enough said. Yeah. No, my model has a double-digit win for Buffalo as well. And my heat map, the only spot that's green for Washington is at offensive coordinator. But here's the thing. Despite that, I really like what Washington's doing this year. I like their story. I like their tenacity. And man, I'll tell you what, I would love to see an upset here, James. I would love to see Sam Howell, Brian Robinson, these guys beat Buffalo. It would just be a freaking punch in the mouth to the Bills. And they kind of deserve it, man, because they're playing like garbage, in my opinion.
No,
But yeah,
so
I'm taking Buffalo.
all right. Then we have Carolina at the Seahawks. For you, my friend,
Andy Dalton.
this is a good game to have Kenneth Walker on your fantasy team. The Panthers have allowed at least 130 rushing yards in each of the first 2 games this season.
Well, don't be jinxing me, dude. But yeah, keep going.
He's tied. Kenneth Walker is also tied with David Sims, Kurt Warner, CURT Warner, and Derek Fenner as having tied for the most rushing yards by a Seahawks play or rushing touchdowns by a Seahawks player. Most multiple rushing touchdown games by a Seahawks player in their first 2 seasons. He has 4 multiple touchdown games so far in his career.
Nice. Smarty time.
I think, and my model has this with Bryce Young out, and it's actually with Bryce Young in. It was a bigger victory by Seattle than with Bryce Young out, and that's because Andy Dalton is slightly better currently at passing
I gotcha.
than Bryce Young. And the Seahawks allow passing yards. Their pass defense ranks 30th in the NFL at 325 yards per game.
Okay. Well, I like the way you're assessing it.
My model has it as a field goal victory for Seattle, 24-21, and so I'm on Seattle.
Okay, I'm on Seattle as well. Yeah, right now my model has Bryce Young and Andy Dalton both rated identical, but I hear what you're saying. Dalton is a seasoned veteran, and that experience can come into play. He can be a game manager for the team. But I don't know. I think Seattle, I think they got their asses in gear last week beating Detroit, and it's a home game for them. I think they're going to keep it going.
All right. Next up, we have Dallas at Arizona, and there's not much to say about this game.
Oh, this would be an amazing upset, but it won't happen.
It would be an amazing upset. The Cardinals have have actually they're tied for third. We talked about this. We talked about this going into last week and against Daniel Jones and that offensive the defensive front for the Cardinals. And so this week I wanted to make sure I found the stat. They are tied for third in the league with 9 sacks.
Okay.
It's really second because there's 2 teams that have 10 sacks. But that kind of stops against Dallas because they have a top tier offensive line.
Yeah, it's gotten a lot better. A couple of years ago, Dallas's offensive line went to shit, but they basically retooled it very quickly.
This stat, this is also Dak Prescott's 100th career game.
Okay.
He's the only player in NFL history with at least 150 touchdowns and passing touchdowns and 25 rushing touchdowns through his first 100 games.
Whoop-de-doo.
Whoop-de-doo. I was surprised that my model had this as close as it did. It had Dallas 27, Arizona 17. I don't know how Arizona gets 17. Way on Dallas on that one.
Well, you'll love my model, and this is where at the extremes my model doesn't jive because teams rarely ever go to the extreme. But of course, Dallas did it to the Giants. My model has Dallas by 28, James, and so it'd be cool if they pulled it off, but in all reality, the heat map is entirely green for Dallas, except I have one neutral. It doesn't even favor Arizona. It's just neutral, which is at head coach, because that's how low I think of Mike McCarthy. And somehow I gave that much credit to Jonathan Gannon as a rookie head coach. And so otherwise, yeah, Dallas should walk away with this one.
Oh, I had a weird betting fact that for the Cardinals,
Yeah.
they're the 6th team in the last 30 years to start 2-0 against the spread, but 0-2 outright.
Okay.
The previous 5 teams, one of them was Atlanta last year, who won Game 3, or the 3rd game of the season. The previous 4 before that went 0-4 or lost against the spread and outright in the 3rd week of the season.
So you want to make a bet on this one, is what you're saying?
So I'm
But
just saying that the smart money would be on Dallas -12 or Dallas outright, whichever one gets you the better odds.
Oh man, Dallas -12. That's just such a big spread. Oh, yeah, but it can happen, and it should happen. So, all right.
So next up, we have the Bears at the Chiefs, and we talk about how I stream defenses, and I'm streaming the Chiefs defense this week because Justin Fields has been sacked through his career, has been sacked on 11.5% of his dropbacks.
Okay.
So far this season, Chicago has allowed 10 sacks. Despite this is the weird one. Justin Fields has had the 5th highest average time to throw the ball.
Wow, man. You know, I thought it looked like in week 1 he had plenty of time, but I didn't get to see last week's game. So, okay, yeah.
So he's getting time to throw the ball and he's still getting sacked, which is weird.
Yeah.
Outside of that,
yeah, so do you think that that's the receivers, or is that him not processing and making the right reads?
I think what it goes down to is they're trying to force a square peg into a round hole and make him a drop back passer. I think he's better passing the ball when he's on the move.
just embrace that Baltimore style
Just
offense.
right. And that that stat can't be right. I got to double check a stat on my sheet real quick because I have I have Kansas City and Chicago tied for total points scored this year on my stat list. And
Yeah,
that
that would
can't
be
be
abnormal.
right.
Yeah.
See, 37 points for Kansas City and 37 points for
So you're
Chicago.
calling your first
Wow.
tie.
Well, Kansas City's only allowed 30 points. Kansas City's +7, Chicago's -28 point differential. My model has it as a 15-point win by Kansas City, and it's honestly this is my survivor pick this week.
Nice, nice. Yeah, no, I mean, we've got some extreme games this week where there's, like when I look at my heat map, it's almost entirely green one way or the other. This is like the third or fourth game. This one is almost entirely green for Kansas City, and there's no reason to believe that Chicago could upset them. Like there's not a story in a narrative that you can come up with that makes sense. And so I'm going Kansas City, man. They're one of my top teams fighting one of my bottom teams. That's just how it goes.
All right. Next up, we're on to Sunday night. We have the Steelers at the Raiders.
Okie dokie.
Kenny Pickett, I'm sorry, the last Steeler quarterback to win a game. This can't be right. This is so fucking weird. The last Steeler quarterback to win a game in whatever stadium was the home stadium for the Raiders. How long ago do you think it was?
Say that one more time.
The last time Pittsburgh won at the Raiders.
The last time Pittsburgh won at the Raiders. So they're
Yeah.
AFC teams, so they're going to play more than, AFC, NFC. Um, I mean, just because
I'll
you're
give you
asking, it sounds like
I'll
it's
give
got
you
to
a
be a
hint.
while ago.
Kenny Pickett was not even born yet.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
1995.
Wow, that's messed up, man. It's not like the
Um,
Raiders have been some powerhouse.
so it's not that impressive when you look at the fact that it's only 4 games.
Wow, yeah, see, I guess I got to understand the schedule rotation because I would have thought it would have been more times than that because they're both in the AFC.
I so it's so it's at least every 3 years they play each other.
Yeah.
So every six years it would be at
Oh, yeah,
um
that's true. Yeah, because I'm not thinking about home and away. I'm just thinking about
yeah,
the pure matchups. Okay, yeah,
right.
because it
It would be
automatically cuts it by 50%. I got you.
at the Raiders, and then if they happen to line up in a year they're not playing um, the divisions matchups not lined up. If they happen to line up where they finish the same in their respective divisions, same like third in the division, whatever.
Sure.
So it was 2006, 2012, 2013, and 2018 that the Steelers have played at the Raiders. The winning quarterbacks in those games were Andrew Walter, Carson Palmer, Terrell Pryor, and Derek Carr.
Okay.
Um, the average score was 25-21. And also, each one of those games, it was Ben Roethlisberger for the Steelers.
Ah, Big Ben letting us down, man.
Uh, I just thought that was weird, but it seems like they would play more. My model has Pittsburgh winning 20-19.
It's tight. It's tight. Yeah, see, this is where I don't like my model because it's got Pittsburgh winning by 5, and I'm like, man, I just don't see it with the way their offense is doing nothing. And so, um, but either way, I'm going to take Pittsburgh. I'm just for sure concerned. And I think that, like, the one thing going in their favor is that my model is down on the Raiders defense compared to where they were last year. And so,
Mhm.
so that could help. This could be the first matchup where we see the Pittsburgh offense start getting some things moving, and they need it, dude. They need it big time.
Yeah, they do. Now, what's up with two back-to-back weeks with a Monday night doubleheader?
The NFL just trying to get those ratings, man. And I don't know, are they setting it up so that they can, oh, well, now one of the Monday nights is only on Prime or it's only on YouTube.
Or
Well,
it's
it's
only
probably
on
it's
ESPN
probably going to be
Plus.
YouTube. Yeah, because it isn't like that the big thing this year. YouTube's getting involved, and so
Yeah.
ah, drives me nuts, James.
All right. Next up, we have the first Monday night matchup of the Philadelphia Eagles at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I'm going to be honest with you, this is the first game I modeled out in my model, and I said, "What the fuck?"
Okay.
Um, you remember how I talked about that random Madden simulation
Yes.
that had Tampa Bay going to the Super Bowl and I believe winning the Super Bowl, or no, losing to the Chiefs? How the fuck is this coming to fruition?
Yeah. I mean, what are the variables in your model that are boosting Tampa Bay? Can you dig that deep to see that, or how does it work?
It's not a single variable. It's like a tenth of a point here and a tenth of a point there,
But you're
and
looking at like stats, and it's,
stats and history. And I took home field out, and like one of the things is Baker Mayfield, in theory, if he plays to his potential, should be a clutch quarterback. And each win, I keep ticking him up a little bit. So maybe I
okay,
ticked him up too far because, like, I ticked him up because
yeah.
he's
One day
playing.
he'll, yeah, one day he'll implode, but yeah,
So um, this is one of this is the only battle of unbeaten's this week. So these two defenses have combined for 12 sacks and 11 takeaways. And also, like, Baker Mayfield, who's playing good, he's seeing heavy boxes
yeah,
who are against him.
which he should never with those two
Which,
wide receivers.
yeah. So I don't know if I'm trying to figure out what to do. Mayfield this season in his last three starts is 3-0 against the spread. His last 7, 5-2 against the spread. It's the spread's Philadelphia by 5. My model has Tampa Bay winning 24-23, and I'm just rolling with it. Um,
You got a lot of real tight games, man.
but I honestly said, "What the fuck" to this.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally understand that. Yeah, so for me, I've got Philly winning this one by a solid spread, and the heat map supports it. But what I would say, just to play devil's advocate, is that if they lose, I would have to put a little bit more weight into the whole Super Bowl hangover theory because they really looked off in weeks 1 and week 2, despite getting wins in both those weeks. And, Cincinnati kind of bucked that trend of
Mhm.
Super Bowl hangover. But you look back at it for years, man, it plays out more times than not where that Super Bowl loser ends up just sucking hard the next year.
I found what kicks it in Tampa Bay's favor, and it's a 1 point victory the other way. If it swings, it's a 2 point swing with the secondary, with the losing the slot corner, and with how Mike Evans had 6 catches, 171 yards,
Yeah, just
and
torched it.
torched the Bears, and the projection is that he's going to play a lot of slot to
Okay.
take advantage of the Maddox absence.
Take the
That's where it swings
slot
it.
away from Godwin. Okay.
Hmm. Yeah,
Okay. I saw that, my friend. I saw that.
you saw
I saw
nothing.
it earlier too. I saw nothing. I saw nothing. I can edit that right out of the video.
Yeah, so I'm on Tampa Bay.
All right.
Um
Yeah, you're Tampa Bay. I'm taking Philly, but yeah.
yeah. Then we
So you're
have the
going against the
Rams.
grain.
We have the Rams at the Eagles.
The
Again,
Rams. Yeah, I was like the Rams at the
at the Bengals.
Bengals.
Sorry. I read I as I was scrolling down on my notes, I had um a stat of the Eagles, and then it got to the Rams and a Rams game. So I'm saying
Yeah.
Rams at, and I saw an Eagle, so I said Eagle. I saw an Eagle note, so I said Eagles, but it's Bengals. You're right. The question in this game is if Joe Burrow's playing.
Yep. Well, oh my God. I mean, if Burrow doesn't play, then I'd go Rams. But yeah.
So, well, no. So my model has the Bengals winning either way.
Yeah, I'm actually checking mine right now because I bet it does too, even though I would not buy it. Yeah, mine does either way, but I don't know if I would buy it with the way the Rams have been playing in the first 2 weeks.
Right, but it's a good game for a backup quarterback to play because of the simple fact that the Rams defense is, I'm sorry, it's a bad game for a backup quarterback to play because the Rams defense is only allowed 272 and a half passing yards per game.
Okay.
Their interior offensive line has played like shit, where the Bengals have. Um, Ironically, Stafford has the second most passing attempts through 2 games this season
Oh yeah,
behind
they've been
Mac
airing it
Jones.
out. Yeah.
He has 93 versus 96 for Mac Jones. My model has the Bengals winning either way. I have to do a little bit more dive into the backup quarterback to
Yeah.
see on it. But if Joe Burrow's playing, caveat, I'm on the Bengals. I have it 24 to 19.
Gotcha. Yeah, see this one, my spread's all messed up, so I'm not even going to go there. But I'm going to take the Bengals, and yeah, if Burrow's out, we're going to definitely be talking on Sunday because I could see this flipping to be in to be in the Rams, even though my model still shows it Cincinnati with Burrow out. I think this
Hmm.
would be one where I might think about trumping it with the narrative just because the Rams have been way outplaying what the model is showing for them.
Yeah, exactly. And then we have Thursday night, Detroit at Green Bay. And now with it being on Prime, but it's a Detroit game, can you watch the game on like one of the local channels, or because I thought that
So
was a caveat if it
it should
was.
be, and I'm hoping it will be, but I'll tell you, I looked at it just the other day, and just the other day, it's saying it doesn't matter, it's only going to be on Prime. And
Oh,
if
that's
that's the
annoying.
case, I will burn something down.
Yeah. I probably would too. I'm on Detroit in the game. I I may change it depending on how Detroit looks this weekend with the offensive line injuries and if we're getting people back, but I'm on
Yeah.
Detroit over Green Bay.
Yeah, and it's super early right now, but I've got it as a tight game. I've got Detroit by 3. I would love to see it be a bigger, like actual win than that because I think Detroit, and I get it, they're going to play this week and then we're talking next week, but Detroit needs to like reassert themselves,
Hmm.
especially within the division, which is up for grabs. And so it's like, a commanding win over Green Bay, I think would be a really good tone setter for them. So, yeah,
Yeah.
so I've got them like that, and yeah, we'll talk more about it as we get closer, as we tweak things. So, yeah,
All right. So that's the games. Any last thoughts on the games this week?
no, I think that's pretty good, man.
All right. So what do you have for question of the week?
All right, so taking it over to question of the week, James, and I'm just pulling up my spreadsheet real quick with our power rankings because I've got all the team records here, and last week I was talking to you about concerns with the playoff teams that had been losing and had issues and yada, yada, yada. This week, I want to flip it the other way. I want to look at the teams that are 0 and 2. And some of these teams you would not expect to be 0 and 2. And I want to know, in your opinion, which of the 0 and 2 teams are you most, or which one are you most concerned with that is going to have a hard time rallying back to, wherever you were expecting them to be. And so I'll just name them off for you real quick. You've got Cincinnati's 0 and 2, Los Angeles Chargers, they're 0 and 2, the Patriots are 0 and 2, the Broncos are 0 and 2. I know some of these you're like, yeah, whatever, you didn't expect it. The Vikings are 0 and 2, the Bears 0 and 2, Chicago, I'm sorry, Chicago, obviously the Bears, Houston, Carolina, Arizona. All those ones at the end, I think we expect to be, not necessarily we expected them 0 and 2, but we expect them to have bad years. And so 0 and 2 is not a surprise. But I think teams like Cincinnati, that's a surprise. I think teams like the Chargers, that's a surprise. For me, I think, I've always, going into the season, I was a downer on Minnesota. And so them 0 and 2 is not a huge surprise for me. To me, the shocker is Cincinnati, and that's the one that I'm most concerned with because, like the Chargers, they do it to themselves every year, man. And so it's like you kind of come to expect them to be their own worst enemy, but with the Bengals, I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And I saw something which I think is just ridiculous. I'm just saying this, but just reporting it. Some dude posted something on Facebook about, uh, oh yeah, Joe Burrow gets paid, and now, here's what you get, like something to that effect. And I'm like, no, man, I don't believe that with Joe Burrow. I know that some guys do that kind of crap, but I am wondering what the heck is going on in Cincinnati because this is a very off start for them. What do you think, man?
So I agree with you with Cincinnati. One thing I don't have much to add because like I didn't have any
I
of
didn't give
the
you a
other
heads up.
team.
Yeah.
No, well, no,
Oh, sorry.
any of the other teams. Like okay. So going to the 0 and 2 teams, I had the Chargers kind of Charger, and I have concerns about them. So I had Minnesota at 8 and 9. That's still plausible. I had New England at 7 and 10. Um, I had Carolina going 7 and 10 this year. I had Houston at 5 and 12.
Yeah,
I
all
had
those are possible with an 0 and 2 start. Yeah.
I had Chicago. I had them at 9 and 8. It's still possible. It's doubtful, but it's possible. I had Denver at 3 and 14. I had Arizona at 2 and 15. The Chargers I did have at 13 and 4. That's
Yeah.
very, very unlikely
Oh,
with
yeah.
an 0 and 2 start. Um, but we've talked about it. Like the Chargers are going to Charger. Plain and simple. I had Cincinnati at 14 and 3. That means to they have to win
Basically win
14,
out.
basically win out to get to the record I thought they were going to have. That's not going to happen. There's no way in hell that's going to happen. I'm going to say it's unfortunate. One thing that's unfortunate for the NFL with Chicago and Arizona both being 0-2 is that they play each other.
Okay. Yeah, so one of them's gonna,
Going into
or they'll tie.
week 15 or 16, sorry, going into week 16, you could have two 0-14 teams playing each other,
Yeah.
which is terrible for the league.
Oh yeah.
But the way Denver's playing, and I'm glancing, Denver might get their first win in week 4 because they play Chicago.
So Chicago's just going to be the beat up team in your model.
Yeah. But going into week 16, I don't know who. Just projecting, I don't know which team I would think would win that game between Arizona and Chicago. It might default to Chicago because it's at Chicago,
Gotcha.
but Cincinnati is by far the team that is in most trouble based on my predictions
I
from
gotcha.
this
Yeah.
season.
Well, we're in alignment there. And hey, I would have given you a heads up, but I kind of came up with the question on the fly. So
No
sometimes you got to do
worries.
what you got to do. So, all right. Well, hey, man. So that's the show. And, for anybody who's watching, we hope you liked it. We hope you liked it. And if you did, let us know you liked it. Hit that thumbs up or the like button or whatever platform you're on. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. And so, yeah, we're going to keep this going every week. Next week, we're doing our week 4 power rankings and game picks and question of the week, name that stadium, all that fun stuff. So, yeah, like always, James, had a good time, man. Any closing thoughts?
No, I think I hit everything.
All right, bud. I'll catch you later.
All right, sounds good. Have a good one.
Gridiron Grinder. Hut, hut, hike.